The Amateur is an action movie where we follow Charlie Heller, played by Rami Malek. He's a CIA operative whose wife is tragically killed in a terrorist attack in London. Overwhelmed with grief, Charlie decides to go after the people responsible for the attack, which defies everyone's expectations because he's known for being a soft and dorky IT guy. He goes rogue on a revenge quest, using his tech skills both to hunt down the culprits and to shake the CIA off of his tail. So there's a couple things going on here, but at its core, it is just a revenge thriller. Charles lost the very thing that he loves most, and he refuses to live in a world where the people who took that from him are alive and well, so he wants to bestow the same terror onto them that his wife felt. The movie shows the ways that losing loved ones can lead people to lose other parts of themselves and become self-destructive. There's also a little bit of a sub-theme of priorities, specifically with how being a busy bee can distract us from the important things in life, like our loved ones. That part is very subtle though. The movie mostly consists of several games of cat and mouse. Charlie is hunting down these terrorists while the CIA is trying to hunt him down and trying to stop his excursion. There's also another game played within the CIA that felt a little bit pulpy, specifically because of the duration that it ran, but nevertheless, these are what make the movie interesting. Seeing the ways that Charlie uses his expertise to shake the operatives trying to pull the plug on his revenge plot was a big part of what made the movie feel like a thriller. There are some pretty close calls and some clever ways that he uses those skills that we see that he has in the first act, all in addition to the fact that he is using these skills to terminate his targets. He is not the type of person who has been primed to take another person's life. So he comes up with these elaborate plans to eliminate the terrorists that feel less brutal to commit than using a gun. At first, honestly, these felt a little bit cheesy. I can't help but equate it to when hokey comic book villains use strange means to kill people, rather than more effectively using a firearm, which would be more efficient in most situations. But in the end, it does make sense here. There is a good enough explanation, and if we're being honest, most working class citizens would be reluctant to kill a person. It's something I've thought about a lot. I do believe that most people, regardless of the circumstances, would be terrified and freeze up holding a person at gunpoint. Considering how common PTSD is in people who have used a firearm on another person, I would find it more abnormal or concerning if somebody with minimal arms training wasn't startled in a situation like that. So coming out of the first act, I did actually think, okay, I think I know exactly how all of the pieces put in play are going to move. Admittedly, I was wrong about a lot of those things, so I could say that I was surprised by turns of events. Some of them pleasantly so, others less so. So really, the biggest shortcoming of this movie was how not very human Charlie felt. He just felt like a very flattened, two-dimensional action character who wasn't fleshed out enough to command our sympathy. If I'm gonna see a movie about a grieving character, I want that movie to make me utterly sob, or at the very least come close to crying. But Charlie's grief feels very shallow most of the time because, like with an unfortunate amount of action flicks and spy thrillers, his entire personality just revolves around his relationship. I mean, sure, he's also a dork, but how that's depicted is also kind of shallow. The only dorky thing about him is how tech savvy he is, but I mean, he's a CIA operative. That's very normal for a character like him. So everyone keeps talking about how dorky he is, but we just don't really see that in his personality. So the main trait that defines him in the movie is his grief. I think some screenwriters think that that is actually a good thing, that the grieving character should have absolutely nothing else in their life because that'll make the loss feel so much bigger because their wife is just their entire world. No! Straight up, no! That's exactly how you make your character feel like just a fictional movie character, not a real person who we should feel bad for. That's exactly why when something awful happens to somebody that we know, we feel so much worse for them than we do when something bad happens to somebody in the news who we just don't know at all. It's because we know their feelings in the world that they were living in. The first act of the movie is pretty generic and rushed, so when Charlie loses his wife, he just feels like a stranger who we've barely gotten to know, living in a very small world. It would be more impactful if they had a life surrounding their marriage for us to get a feel for, like if they had friends or communities or really any sort of life outside of their house. Because then we would see Charlie's world crumble with all of the big and little things in life that they shared together, but really their romance consisted of little more than generic married couple tropes. Burning his whole life down to go on this one-way ticket revenge quest just doesn't feel that dark when it doesn't seem like he had much of a life to burn down. There's also a couple chin scratcher moments, like for example, at one point character A is chasing character B, character A is actually stopped, so what does character B do? He actually stops to go see what's going on with character A. Like, naturally you can't help but think, why aren't you still running away? And at one point, an important character in the CIA realizes that another character is compromised and just doesn't really do anything about it. I wanna say that I understand why, but it's kind of vague among other things in this movie. It's just one of those situations where part of me likes when a movie shows rather than tells, but sometimes, you know, it's okay to give a seamless explanation. And without spoiling any bit of the ending, I gotta say that the last like 10 or 15 minutes felt pretty dissatisfying. Those last few big scenes just don't really feel like they were set up properly at all. So I know this is an increasingly generic criticism to make, but this movie really feels like it could have been written by AI. It is not terrible by any means, but make no mistake, it is generic. I'm gonna call this one fine. It wasn't completely uninteresting, but I certainly will not remember anything about this movie this time next year. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please give it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you next week with my review of Sinners.